All right, welcome back. Today I'm going to talk about 3D printing and blacksmithing. And those things are somewhat antithetical or opposites of one another. Blacksmithing is an old, traditional craft, and 3D printing is quite a new, modern invention. And so, what I want to do is just talk to you about how I use 3D printing in the blacksmith shop and why I think it is such a valuable tool and why I think other blacksmiths should be taking advantage of 3D printing. First and foremost, I'm not a 3D printing expert. I have been 3D printing since about 2017 when I bought my first printer. It was actually a birthday present for my son. It was an ANET A8, and it was a kit printer. It came in a big box of styrofoam packing and literally 1,000 pieces, and we had to build the frame. We had to attach the stepper motors. We had to wire some of the stuff together. We had to wire the power supply in. It was literally like an erector set for a 3D printer. And I believe you can still buy these ANET kit printers today, and they're a pretty reliable printer. They're based on what's called the RepRap, which is an open source 3D printing format. But anyway, that was the first 3D printer that we had here, and we initially used it to print fidget spinners. You know, back then the fidget spinners were a big craze. And we actually did so many fidget spinners that my kids were selling those fidget spinners to other kids for a few dollars each. And we took that money and bought a second ANET A8 printer. And so for a little while, we had two ANET kit printers side by side, just spitting out fidget spinners like crazy. Over time, I started realizing that these weren't just toys. You know, 3D printers weren't just toys, but what they did was they brought fast manufacturing into the house in a way that had never been done before. And that's kind of the angle I want to talk about today, is that 3D printing gives a blacksmith a way to quick prototype a physical object really quickly, and it allows you to iterate or to make multiples of those until you get to where you want to go, you know, or you get to the physical object that you want. Yeah, 2017 is when I started, so I've been doing 3D printing for quite a while. 3D printing today in 2024, almost 2025, is completely a different landscape than it was back then. Back then, the majority of our time printing was printing things for the printer. You know, you would unbox these kits, put them together, and then you would print parts to improve the printer's reliability or print quality and all that kind of stuff. You don't really have to do that as much nowadays, and I'm going to get into the kind of printers or the brand that I prefer in a minute. But 3D printing has moved quite a bit to the point where they're almost appliance level devices now. Just like, you know, you have a printer in your house that prints ink on paper, you have a microwave that makes things hot. Well, 3D printers are getting to the point now where you have an object that makes physical things and works pretty much every time, which is awesome, because while it was fun to print those items to improve printers, inevitably what that meant was a lot of tinkering with the printer itself and a lot of time spent tinkering and not as much time printing. Well, now again, it's a lot different, and you can spend a whole lot of time printing now and not worry so much about having to improve your printer. So with that said, let me tell you, my preference today is Bambu Labs printers. I have a Bambu Labs X1C printer, and I have a Bambu Labs A1 Mini. I have the AMS, which is the multi-material system for both of those, which allows me to print up to 4 colors or 4 different materials, or select from 4 colors or 4 different materials when I go to print. And they are phenomenal devices. I cannot sing the praises of Bambu Labs high enough. They are, as I understand it, it's a group of engineers that left DJI and we all know DJI drones and cameras are top notch. These guys left DJI with the idea that they could make a better 3D printer than was currently on the market, and they delivered. Hands down, the best printing experience I've ever had since 2017 has been with Bambu Labs printers. So they are not only much more reliable, they are really fast compared to the older printers. And there's a massive community now around them, both online and on their wiki. They have a really nice support wiki where if you have any issues, you can go there and find pretty much any issue you run into. They've already addressed it and have step-by-step instructions on how to get past it. So anyway, my preference is for Bambu Labs printers, and it's never been more economical to get into 3D printing with such a good machine. I think I purchased my A1 Mini for $179 for just the base printer, and then there was an add-on for like $150 for the AMS. So my recommendation, if you've gotten this far into the video and you're wondering, hey, which printer should I get if I just want to dip my toe in the waters of 3D printing and give it a shot, my recommendation is the A1 Mini. For $179, you can do single color printing on a machine that is just dead nuts reliable and makes great quality prints. It does have a fairly small build volume, but most of the things I print are fairly small, and I'll show some of those here in a second. But yeah, the A1 Mini is just a phenomenal machine. They also have an A1 machine, which is a standard bed size or print bed size machine that I think is like between $300 and $400. And then they go up in price after that to the P1 series and the X1 series. And very shortly here in the next year in 2025, I'm 100% sure we're going to see a newer machine from Bambu Labs. So anyway, that's my recommendation, is to go with a Bambu Labs machine, and you just can't go wrong with the A1 Mini. It's a great little machine, and I'll try to roll some B-roll footage here of both of those machines that I have. Now, how do I use those machines in a blacksmith shop? So earlier I said rapid prototyping. Well, this is what I mean. So a couple of years ago, I had an opportunity to make a bunch of bottle openers for a project, and I needed a way to shortcut that a little bit because I was in a major time crunch to get a lot of these things forged out. So I thought, well, what if I start with a bottle opener that already has a hole in it? So I 3D printed what I call the bottle opener blank, and this is just a 1 inch wide with a 1/4 inch rim here with a 1 inch hole in the middle, and that's what I call a bottle opener blank. And so I printed this and then brought it to my anvil and stuck it on the horn to make sure it would fit the way that I would want it to. And then I forged one. I hand forged a steel blank to this exact size and then forged a bottle opener from it, and was just amazed at how quickly that shortcut my process for making a bottle opener. So then I went to Send Cut Send and had them cut me a bunch of these blanks, which then allowed me to make bottle openers of steel, a bunch of different kinds of bottle openers. This is an ice pick throwing kind of bottle opener. This is just kind of a standard bottle opener with some custom stamping in it. I wound up doing some other prototyping later where I took the idea of the fast bottle opener and made a kunai, Japanese kunai style bottle opener. And that was a plastic prototype before it was ever forged into steel. So you can see with the bottle opener blank, I went from plastic to metal to laser cut blank to a bucket full of blanks that I could then forge into a finished product a lot faster than just starting with flat bar where I have to punch and drift the hole and all that. So anyway, the bottle opener blank was my first 3D print to forged product experience, and it just kind of blew my mind. I was like, okay, this opens a lot of doors for me. So my next project was my swage block project, where I worked with Charles at Atlas Knife and Tool, who helped me work with a foundry to get my mini swage block. This is version 1. I've got a version 2 around here somewhere, but this is a swage block that I designed to be used under tire hammers, under hydraulic presses, at the anvil, under a fly press. And that started out as a 3D printed prototype. So I printed multiple iterations of this block and brought them out here. I had probably 6 or 7 different versions of this 3D printed block. And then I would take it to the tire hammer and move it around, take it to my treadle hammer, to the fly press, to the hydraulic press, and I would put this plastic piece in there and just move it around and see, okay, does it work in all these different tools? Does it work the way I want it to work? Before I ever even thought about having it cast in tool steel. So that was a huge, huge benefit, to be able to iterate a product like this multiple times for very little expense before I went to the casting step was huge. And so let's see, the next thing I did was I was making coffee scoops. Hold that thought. And my coffee scoops started out with me hand forging the scoop and the blank for the bowl and all that. I was hand forging all that stuff to shape. And eventually I realized, hey, I'm forging all of these handles for these coffee scoops to the same exact shape every time. I had one that was hanging on my induction machine, and when I would forge a handle, I would kind of hold it up to that one until I got it to, to match the master handle. And so I thought, well, why don't I just go ahead and get these laser cut as well? And so this is my coffee scoop kit. And I started this, I think, in 2018, 2019, doing my coffee scoops from laser cut blanks. And these also started as 3D printed pieces that I could hold in my hand and manipulate and move around to different tools before I went to the metal versions and having them cut out. And so that saved a whole lot of time as well. And that also, again, started as a 3D print. Now, here's another thing that I've been doing recently is I have been making one-piece coffee scoops, forged one-piece steel coffee scoops. And you guessed it, that too started out as a 3D printed prototype. This is plastic, and this is steel, all right? So, and this turns into this by using this. So I used my version 1 swage block with a 3D printed prototype turned into steel to eventually come up with another product, which is my one-piece forged coffee scoop. So those are just a few ways that I've used 3D printing to rapid prototype products in my shop. Now, I have also used it for all kinds of other tools in the shop. So when I needed to fill up a hydraulic press with hydraulic fluid, I didn't have a funnel that would fit the opening just right on my oil reservoir for the hydraulic press. So I printed it. I printed a big old funnel that fits just perfect into the hydraulic press, and keeps hydraulic fluid from leaking all over the floor. So that's just one tool. A friend of mine, Aviary Forge, if you're watching this, check this out. This is a tool that he makes. You'll have to contact Jot at Aviary Forge if you want one of these. What this is I think it's an isosceles triangle map for making these tongs, these Brazil hammer eye tongs, correctly. So if you lay this down, you can see it matches the pattern on there, and there are multiple patterns inside this triangle for different sized hammer eye tongs. That's something that Jot came up with, and it's got all the markings on here and the measurements for I think it says 4, 6, or 7 inch size jaws for those tongs. But anyway, that's a crazy cool little tool that Jot came up with and printed to help him dial in the measurements for his hammer eye tongs. So, I mean, I could keep going, right? I also send these are little anvils that that I send out in the box whenever someone buys something from me, a steak turner or something, and I box it up. I throw one of these little anvils in there, and this is a 1-for-1 copy of my Swedish coleslaw anvil that I use here in the shop. And this is just kind of a marketing thing, right? You know, when somebody buys something from me, I throw one of these in the box, and it's just a little happy. It's got my touch mark, my stamp touch mark in there in the anvil. It's just a little marketing thing, and whenever I go and do a demonstration or teach somewhere, I bring a bucket of those 3D printed anvils and I hand them out, and they're always a hit. People love them. And again, it gets my name out there a little bit more, and it's something that's fun for me to give to people, and people enjoy receiving them, and it's 3D printed. And I think I can print a whole sheet of those things for, you know, pennies, basically. Each one of these takes a very little amount of filament. I'm not going to get into how 3D printing works in this video, like, you know, what kind of filament you need, you know, the mechanics of running a 3D printer and using the software that goes along with it. There are a million different videos out there for that. If you want to shoot me a message in the comments, I'll address that and give you some suggestions as far as videos to help you get started. But the main point of this video is I want to just give a tiny glimpse into my shop as a blacksmith as to how I use 3D printing on a day-to-day basis. It is a phenomenal technology. It's better now than it's ever been. And again, I can't recommend the Bambu printers highly enough. I am nowhere, I'm not sponsored by them. I've never contacted them. They don't even know about this video as far as I'm concerned. So I get nothing from them for the endorsement other than that I really appreciate their products, and all their printers I've purchased, no one's given me any of that stuff. So it's about as honest a review of their equipment as I can give. I just can't speak highly of their stuff. It's just great. So anyway, I'm starting to ramble. I'm going to shut the video down right here. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.